My name is Brielle Carter. I'm 32 years old. And until recently, I believed I was weeks away from marrying the man I would spend the rest of my life with. Instead, I ended up learning that sometimes the person standing beside you isn't really standing with you at all. My fiancé's refusal to sign a prenup didn't destroy our relationship. It revealed what had already been broken. Ethan Reynolds was 29. We'd been together for 3 years and engaged for 6 months. The wedding was only 4 months away. And I had thrown myself into planning our future with complete faith. I truly thought he was my person. What made everything hurt even more was that I hadn't inherited my life. I built it 5 years earlier. I started a software development company from my garage. There were nights when I survived on instant noodles and coffee. 80-hour weeks became normal. I risked every dollar of my savings because I believed I could create something meaningful. Eventually, the gamble paid off. By the time Ethan and I got engaged, my company employed 15 people. We had loyal clients, reliable income, and a reputation I was incredibly proud of. It wasn't just a business. It represented years of sacrifice. My attorney, Rebecca Lawson, who had also become one of my closest friends, insisted that I protect it. "You're not planning for failure," she told me. "You're protecting everything you've already built." The prenup itself was simple. Everything either of us owned before marriage would remain separate. Everything acquired together afterward would belong to both of us equally. Fair, balanced, protective, for both sides. 2 weeks before the wedding payment deadline, I sat down with Ethan and explained everything carefully. He smiled. He listened. He even took the documents home and promised to review them. I remember feeling relieved. I thought we had handled it like adults. Then came the dinner that changed everything. The final non-refundable venue payment was due the next morning. We had already invested thousands into deposits. Halfway through dinner, I asked gently, "Have you had a chance to finish reviewing the prenup?" The smile disappeared from his face. "I have," he said quietly, "and I won't sign it." I kept my voice calm. "Okay. Tell me what bothers you. We can adjust things." His expression hardened. "My problem is the existence of the document itself." He placed his fork down. "It's insulting, Brielle. It makes me feel like you think I'm after your money. That's not what it means." "Then why do it?" "Because I have employees depending on me. Because I have responsibilities." His voice sharpened. "My parents never needed one. They built a marriage on trust." I tried again. "Ethan, this isn't about trust." But he cut me off. "No. This is about you preparing for divorce before we're even married." Then he said the sentence that changed everything. "It's either me or that prenup." At first, I thought I had misheard him, but he repeated it. "You have to choose what kind of marriage this is going to be." The conversation continued for nearly an hour, around and around. Every explanation I offered was rejected, and with every argument he made, something strange happened. The romantic fog I'd lived inside for years started disappearing. I began noticing details I'd ignored before. How he always referred to my company as our future income. How he talked about eventually making decisions together regarding expansion. How he had once joked about retiring early because I worked too hard. Things I had interpreted as affection suddenly felt different. For the first time, I wondered if we had been imagining 2 completely different futures. I wasn't looking at my partner anymore. I was looking at someone who believed access to my life's work came automatically with a wedding ring. And suddenly, I felt calm, not angry, not emotional, just cold. I nodded. "I understand." His shoulders relaxed immediately. A tiny victorious smile appeared on his lips. "Good," he said. "I'm glad you're being reasonable." He thought he'd won. I excused myself and walked into my office. Then I closed the door. For several minutes, I simply sat there staring at my grandfather's Omega watch, resting beside my computer. My grandfather had taught me something when I was young. Never build something you're unwilling to protect. Those words echoed in my mind. I picked up my phone. First, I called the venue and canceled. The deposit was gone. Painful, but survivable. Then I canceled the caterer, the photographer, the band, every reservation, every plan, every illusion. Finally, I logged into our wedding website. My hands trembled while I typed, due to unforeseen circumstances. The wedding of Brielle Carter and Ethan Reynolds, scheduled for October 12, has been canceled. I apologize for any inconvenience and wish Ethan the very best. No accusation, no drama, only facts. Then I packed an overnight bag. The apartment lease was in my name. I paid for almost everything inside, yet I couldn't bear staying there, so I left. I checked into a hotel and turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I sat alone with silence. And I cried. Not because I regretted my decision, because I was mourning the future I thought I had. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages, most from Ethan, some from his mother, others from friends. Before I could process any of it, someone started pounding on my hotel room door. Then the room phone rang. The receptionist sounded nervous. Ms. Carter. Yes, there's a gentleman in the lobby demanding to see you. He says his name is Bruce Reynolds, Ethan's father, and he's causing quite a scene. I closed my eyes. Something told me this nightmare wasn't ending. It was only beginning. I met Bruce Reynolds downstairs in the hotel coffee shop, because I refused to let him know my room number the moment I saw him. I understood why Ethan always folded whenever his father entered the room. Bruce carried himself like a man who expected the world to obey him. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask how I was doing. He sat down and immediately pointed a finger at me. You humiliated my son. That was his opening sentence. Not concern, not questions, en accusation. I wrapped both hands around my coffee cup and answered quietly. Ethan made a decision. Bruce. I responded to it. His jaw tightened. A decision. You blindsided him with legal paperwork. He had 2 weeks to review it. You treated him like a criminal. I treated him like a future spouse. His eyes narrowed. You know what I think? I think you've become obsessed with money. That almost made me laugh. I had spent years sacrificing everything to build my company. Meanwhile, Ethan had never once invested $1 into it. But somehow, I was the greedy one. I offered to pay for his attorney. I said calmly. He gave me an ultimatum. Bruce leaned forward. Then fix it. I stared at him. Excuse me. Call everyone back. Tell them emotions got out of control. There is no wedding. You young people give up too easily. I shook my head. It's over. His expression changed. For the first time, the charming businessman disappeared. In his place sat a man used to getting his way. You don't want to make an enemy of me. Brielle. The threat was quiet, which somehow made it more disturbing. I stood up. There is nothing left to discuss. And I walked away. At the time, I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, everything became strangely unpleasant. Not dramatisch. Not obvious. Just uncomfortable. Mutual friends began calling me with strange questions. Are you okay emotionally? Have you been sleeping? Is work becoming too stressful? Eventually, I discovered why Ethan had been telling people I suffered some kind of breakdown. According to him, the pressure from running my business had become overwhelming. He claimed he had tried desperately to save our relationship. He painted himself as the worried fiancé, abandoned by a woman who no longer recognized herself. It was brilliant, because he wasn't attacking me. He was pretending to protect me. Meanwhile, his mother, Frances Reynolds, started texting long, emotional messages. You've broken Ethan's heart. He hasn't stopped crying. How can you throw away 3 years? Love requires sacrifice. I didn't answer. Then came the practical problem. The apartment, since Ethan wasn't on the lease. Rebecca helped me send a formal 30-day notice. Nothing cruel, nothing illegal, just facts. 3 days later, Ethan called me sobbing. I have nowhere to go. That's not true. I can't think straight right now. You have 30 days. I thought you loved me. The guilt nearly crushed me, because despite everything, a part of me still remembered the man I thought I knew. But another voice, inside, whispered something important. People who love you don't issue ultimatums. So I held firm. The following weeks became exhausting. I avoided social media. I buried myself in work. And that's when the business attacks began. My biggest software supplier unexpectedly tightened my credit line. The explanation sounded vague. Market concerns. Then a client postponed an important project. They sounded uncomfortable during our meeting. We've heard some rumors. What rumors? Questions about stability. Stability. My company was stronger than ever. Yet somehow whispers had started spreading. No accusation, no evidence, just uncertainty. Then it hit me. Bruce. He sat on charity boards. He belonged to influential business groups. He knew everyone, and unlike direct slander, whispers leave no fingerprints. By the end of the month, I had lost sleep, lost weight, and nearly lost my temper. But I refused to lose myself. Finally, move-out day arrived. I couldn't bring myself to be there. Too many memories, too much anger. Instead, I asked my closest friend, Olivia Bennett, to supervise. Olivia had known me since college. Nothing rattled her. Even better, her father, Richard Bennett, was an attorney. He volunteered to be present as well. Before they arrived, I sent them detailed photographs and receipts. Everything Ethan owned would go with him. Everything I owned would remain simple. Several hours later, Olivia called me. Brielle. You're not going to believe this. My stomach dropped. What happened? Ethan brought his mother. Of course he did. And Olivia Sahil. They tried claiming your television. I almost laughed. Seriously. It gets worse. Richard's voice appeared in the background. Tell her about the watch. My blood froze. What watch? The Omega. My grandfather's Omega. The one thing I treasured most in the world. According to Ethan, I had supposedly given it to him as an engagement gift. I nearly dropped my phone. No. That's what he said. The room spun around me. That watch wasn't jewelry. It was my grandfather. His stories. His advice. His memory. I remembered letting Ethan wear it once at a charity gala because he admired it. And now, he wanted to take it. Olivia continued. When Richard explained there was proof of prior ownership, Ethan completely lost his temper. What did he say? He said you were selfish and vindictive. I closed my eyes. No. Someone else said those words. Not Ethan. His mother. Olivia corrected herself. Sorry. Francis said it. Apparently, Francis insisted I had verbally promised the watch would become a Reynolds family heirloom. A complete lie. Richard calmly informed them that any dispute could be handled through the courts. The legal language ended the argument immediately. Bullies hate paperwork. They left furious. But not before Ethan shouted one final message. Tell Brielle she won't get away with this. When Olivia repeated those words, I sat quietly for a long time. Until that moment, I'd been trying to survive, trying to heal, trying to move on. But suddenly, something changed. Bruce attacked my company. Francis attacked my character. And Ethan tried to steal my grandfather's legacy. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was a campaign. And for the first time since the engagement collapsed, I stopped asking myself why they were doing this. Instead, I started asking a different question. Who exactly was Bruce Reynolds? Because men like him usually leave footprints, and I intended to find them. The strange thing about anger is that it eventually becomes exhausting. After months of stress, sleepless nights, and constantly waiting for the next attack, I stopped feeling furious. I just felt tired. My company had survived, but not without damage. One important client had permanently walked away. The rumors Bruce Reynolds had spread through his network were working. Nothing obvious. Nothing I could sue him for. Just whispers, doubts, questions. The kind of poison that slowly destroys trust. For a while, I fantasized about confronting him publicly. I imagined exposing everything at some charity gala. I imagined humiliating him the way he had humiliated me. But revenge fueled by emotion rarely ends well. So instead, I focused on facts. Bruce loved presenting himself as a pillar of the community. His company website was full of words like integrity, partnership, and ethical leadership. The more perfect his image appeared, the more suspicious I became. So after work, night after night, I started researching public records. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, just patience. Court filings, business registrations, old records. At first, I found nothing. Then I found one small claims case, then another, then another. Eventually, I discovered 6 separate lawsuits over the previous 3 years, different contractors, different professions, electricians, painters, landscapers, small family businesses. Every complaint looked almost identical. Unpaid invoices, delayed payments, settlement offers at the last possible moment. Bruce wasn't some respected community leader. He was a man who squeezed smaller businesses because he knew they couldn't afford long legal battles. Suddenly, everything made sense. The intimidation, the threats, the whispers. This was who he was. He had simply underestimated me. I never planned some grand revenge. I just wanted the truth to exist outside my own head. Meanwhile, something else happened. The social narrative around Ethan slowly started changing. At first, mutual friends had believed his version, but unlike him, I never attacked. When people reached out, I simply told them the truth. I explained the prenup. I explained the ultimatum. I explained the attempt to take my grandfather's watch. Nothing exaggerated, nothing emotional. People noticed the difference. On the Biwan, they started seeing inconsistencies in Ethan's stories. Apparently, he had been telling different versions to different people. Eventually, those contradictions began catching up with him. But Bruce was still untouchable, until I discovered one of the businesses that had sued him. A family-owned electrical company. Excellent reputation. Good people. I recognized their name from previous industry projects. And one night, sitting alone at my kitchen table, I made a decision. I typed an anonymous letter. Nothing threatening, nothing emotional. I simply listed the other court cases I had discovered. Case numbers, dates, public records. At the bottom, I wrote one sentence. How many small businesses have experienced the same thing? Then I mailed it from another town and forgot about it. A month later, something unexpected happened. A local business journal released an article. Are major developers exploiting small contractors? The story exploded. Apparently, the owner of the electrical company had contacted the other businesses. Together, they had spoken with a journalist. Suddenly, Bruce Reynolds found himself facing questions he couldn't silence. My name never appeared. I wasn't mentioned once. This wasn't about me. It was about patterns. About facts. About truth. The fallout came slowly. The charity board Bruce proudly served accepted his resignation. An investor withdrew from one of his projects. Several newspapers picked up the story. Not because he was bankrupt, not because he had committed some massive crime, but because reputation matters, and reputations built on false images eventually crack. Ironically, the same whispers Bruce had weaponized against me had returned to him, only now they were louder. As for Ethan, his world changed too. People began connecting dots. They remembered how quickly he had defended his parents, how aggressively he had pursued my grandfather's watch, how many stories he had told. He didn't become an outcast, but people saw him differently. Months later, one of our former mutual friends quietly told me that Ethan was dating again. His new girlfriend apparently wasn't the glamorous, wealthy woman his parents had always envisioned for him. And strangely enough, I hoped she was kind, because despite everything, I no longer hated him. I simply didn't recognize him anymore. As for France, her messages eventually stopped. Silence replaced accusations, which suited me perfectly. Life became peaceful again. Not immediately. Healing never works that way. But little by little, normal returned. My company stabilized. New clients replaced old ones. The rumors disappeared. And for the first time in nearly a year, I could breathe without feeling anxious. One evening, while cleaning my bedroom, I picked up my grandfather's Omega watch, the same watch Ethan had tried to claim. I wound it carefully and listened to its steady ticking. I remembered my grandfather's voice. Protect your foundation. Brielle. Back then, I thought he meant money. Now I understood. He meant values, self-respect, boundaries, the things no one else can build for you. Looking back, canceling the wedding was the most painful decision I've ever made. But it was also the smartest. I didn't lose my future. I saved it. Sometimes people ask whether I regret ending things so abruptly. The answer is no, because love should never require surrendering your peace, and marriage should never begin with an ultimatum. I still feel sad when I think about the woman I used to be, the woman who believed love alone could overcome everything, but I also feel proud of the woman I became, because when the foundation started cracking, I chose to protect it instead of pretending nothing was wrong. Today, my grandfather's watch sits on my dresser. Its quiet ticking reminds me that some things are real, some things endure, and sometimes walking away isn't losing. Sometimes it's the only reason you survive.